Howdy, I'm Zohra, and today I'm going to talk about project number one, which is parametric modeling in Revit. Chameleon Biomimetic Office from WWF Architects is a project that I've chosen. The project is basically it consists of two steps, which is mass modeling and pattern modeling. The mass modeling is simple extrusion with some booleans, where I gave some parameters to make the model more parametric, and the mass model is more complex, and it consists of three different layers of structure, shading, and glazing, in which the shading can have different factors of opening. So let's start with the mass modeling. First, I defined the reference plane, the edges of the model, and also this reference plane to define the boolean in the middle. And then I draw the outline of the model in two different layers. These are the parameters that can make the model more parametric, like the length. For example, let's say the angle. Okay, so this if a statement that you see here is basically is done because by experiment I saw that in some specific angles where the angle is too small or too big, the model broke. So I made this statement in order to not make the model break. And other parameters also can change, like the height of the reference plane and also these edges, for example. So after that, the model is extruded, and this is another boolean that has been made on this facade. And after that, each surface has been chosen to make a pattern. An important thing about this is that first of all, I try to make the hexagon pattern, but through hexagon in Revit, the pattern can never give me an equilateral triangle. So that's why I decided to do it with equilateral triangle. And in order to reach to this pattern, I had to do some other steps, which is, first of all, make the U-grid and V-grid a parameter that gives me equilateral triangle. So first of all, I had to change the fixed number to fixed distance, and then make this parameter based on the simple equation of a equilateral triangle. So this is the bisector, and this is the formula. So I use this to make these two parameters of U-grid and V-grid. Then after that, I had to make the pattern. So basically, to make the pattern, the first step is to do the same, to use the same number for this grid. So after that I chose the triangle pattern, I had to again choose the same numbers that I did for the parameters in the pattern, in the mass model, for this pattern. So first of all, I want to show you how the pattern works, and then I will explain how I made it. So the important thing about the pattern is that it has two different factors that decides how the shadings move. So it can be closer and higher, so don't let the sunlight passes through them, or they can be completely open, and lower. Other parameters like this height and also this height, or like different profile and different thickness of the profile, and other stuff, also some parameters that could change. So this is the process where I made this pattern. So basically the first layer is simple, so it is just connecting the points and making extrusion. The second layer is a little bit more complex, about making the shading. So in order to make the shading, I had to make points where they had different factors. So first of all, I had to make the bisectors, and place this point as the intersection, in the intersection of this all these bisectors. So this point here has a ratio, you can see, that is defined as a parameter here. So this is the midpoint here, and it is the proportion of this parameter, which is called third, which is bisector, divided by 3, and also the bisector, which gives me the length of it. The reason that is defined as a separate parameter is that it needs to be a ratio, it needs to be a number. So after that this point has been located, all of this line had to be created, like this and this. And then on this line, another point had to be located where this point actually has another ratio which shows where this point is located in between this line. So this point actually has a ratio which is here, the opening factor. So if the opening factor, for example, becomes 0.1, this is become closer to the end, and the shading will be closer. And if it becomes 0.9, the reverse happens. Okay, another parameter is this parameter. Okay, I have to make this a little bit bigger. So let's make it 0.5. Okay. So this point actually shows how big is the upper triangle is, how big the scale of this triangle is, which actually define how the shading become closer or become more open. So this one, this parameter is the reverse of the opening factor. So it automatically will be decided. So if this one is 0.3, so this becomes 0.7. Okay. And then after that, it was simple. It was just closing these lines, this boundary, and making the shading. And the last step is that make this a structure, which is the same as the glazing. And after that, I had to choose all of these objects and assign them to a material. And yeah, and after that, it can be easily loaded to the project level, to the mass level, sorry. So this is the mass where the model is, the pattern is loaded. And for the first floor, a simple pattern of glazing only is loaded. And then the whole project is loaded into the whole mass is loaded to the project level. Only another thing is that I had to choose this pattern and assign them the same, okay, here. So I had to assign them a type material so they could be passed through project level. And another thing that I've done is that the patterns has different type. So the type shows how much the opening is affected. So for example, if the pattern is pattern B, it has a certain opening, or for example, it can be pattern, okay, it can be pattern C, the opening is different, for example. And then at the end, it has been loaded to the project. And yeah. This is the project level. And this is some renderings. Thank you.